Hey, there's no question, if I were going to go out and watch live a professional golf tournament, no question in my mind that I would make a beeline towards the groups of either Bryson DeChambeau or Jake Knapp. Two of the most exciting golfers on the planet right now, and you know that you would love to stand right next to them as they launch the ball at over 190 miles an hour straight down the fairway. That'd be so much fun. To me, it's probably the most difference on how they create their speed. And once you learn it, I think it's going to help you get faster too. So right after this, let's take a little deeper look. Stay tuned. All right, let's jump right into it by watching both of their swings, Bryson and Jake, in full speed first, so you can kind of appreciate the speed, but also the differences between the way they make speed. If you notice, what everybody's remarking about Jake Knapp is how effortless and fluid and free he's creating this speed. It's kind of like he's a modern day Fred Couples, isn't he? Almost looks like he doesn't care, like he's yawning over the ball and flicking at it, and it's going 190. He certainly doesn't look like he's swinging that fast. Meanwhile, Bryson, still a really good swing because he wins lots of tournaments and shoots really low scores, but he certainly looks so much different than Jake does, doesn't he? It's almost like Jake is the duck on top of the water, and Bryson represents the duck paddling underwater. He looks like he's paddling furiously, frantically, using brute force to get the ball out there. Rather than like Jake, it just looks like he's just flicking at it. So there's no question there's something different going on. Let's see if we can put our finger on it by taking a slow-mo look. Now what you'll notice if you take a look at a few photos of Jake Knapp and his follow-through, he's got this incredible angle from the right forearm to the club shaft by the time his arm gets to about here. And you can really see it in some of the photos that you might find on Google, how he's very similar in this manner to a Dustin Johnson or a Fred Couples. Two more players who hit the ball way, way out there with high speed. Especially Fred Couples in the 80s he was the Jake Knapp of that era, or the Bryson DeChambeau. He could just flat out crush the ball back in the Persimmon era. But again, it's this angle. Now, when we look at a slow-mo swing, you can see how Jake Knapp really flicks at the wrists at it, very free, and ends up rehinging the wrist incredibly quickly. Now, if you take a look at the slow motion swing of Bryson, you'll see that as he goes into his follow through, he's trying to hold more of a straight line in the follow through between the arm and the club shaft. You don't see the wrist rehinging at all. You see more of this closer to a straight line in the follow through. This, I think, is the big difference in how they look when they're creating speed. So what you have when you build a lot of speed like Jake does, you have this early burst of force into the grip back here, starting at the top and peaks right about here. But it's a very quick snapping. However, just like a pendulum works. So here we have our pendulum, or let's say a child on a swing, and we're not going very fast here. This is like the average golfer. So you start to apply force. Notice where we're applying the force to the child on the swing back when the downswing starts. Notice it's a quick burst, makes the child fly through faster, and because the child is not impeding his progress, watch how he rehinges upwards very abruptly. Of course, the bigger burst of energy you put on there, the higher the child will fly, unimpeded around the circle. That is to say, you don't want to have a burst of energy, and then continue to try to force energy into it as you go through, but it's simply over. So Mike Austin used to say that the guy who hit it the longest would be the guy who could go from contraction to relaxation the quickest, and that is the epitome of what Jake Knapp is doing. Now Bryson, on the contrary, well, he probably is, applying a greater burst of peak force back here somewhere in this range. However, judging by what you see in the follow-through right here, this actually takes a lot more strength. Imagine if you were going to push the child and then break the child. Like, I'll use my wrist and my fingers this time. I have to squeeze in order to impede the club. So I've given it a burst, but I'm not getting out of the way. I'm not letting it circle in an unimpeded way. Therefore, the club head is not accelerating to its possible top speed. Where you see it manifest would be in the follow-through. The club wants to twirl in a circle, a tight circle, like it's going around a centrifuge. Unless, of course, you apply a force to the grip that would impede it. Therefore, that takes more strength. Throw it and then stop it. It takes a hell of a lot of wrist and finger and arm strength to slow it down. This is what it appears as though Bryson is doing, and therefore, why he looks so strong. He's bearing down even his face. You can really see the intensity. Meanwhile, Jake Knapp looks like he's just cruising down the river, not trying very hard at all, and getting, you could say, equal results in terms of speed. So what we're after doing, I would say the way this applies to you, because we can't all get to be as strong or try to hit the ball as hard as Bryson does. He's certainly unique. It works, of course, very well for him, but for most of us mortals, we don't have that kind of strength or can use it and time it. Let's swing more like Jake, in my opinion. Make sure that once you give it your burst of energy here to uncock the wrist, let it continue unimpeded. And you'll see if the club is unimpeded, it wants to rehinge itself. In other words, I'm trying to make the wrists, the club, move around the wrists with the biggest angle change I can relative to the travel of the butt of the club. So here I'm at 90 degrees, going around to 90 degrees, but look how far the handle travels. Very small distance, only from my right shoulder back to my sternum again. It's really going to give me a lot of speed pickup, but meanwhile, I'm not going to look like I'm hitting it hard. So let's see if I can make one kind of look more like Jake Knapp, and we'll take a slow-mo look at it and see what I'm doing with my wrist through the ball. Good high straight drive there. Lots of power relative to the effort I feel like I put into that. Taking a look at that in slow-mo now, you can really clearly see I'm changing the wrist angle. I'm going from contraction to relaxation and allowing the club head and shaft to twirl around my body, almost like I'm got the baton in a marching band and I'm just twirling it around my wrist so adeptly like they do, rather than trying to hold a line or point the club at the target as long as possible. Any of these notions, I think, are poor substitutes. Twirl the club around the arc and let it rehinge. Try to look more like Jake Knapp, where you're hitting it way out there for less effort. Can't be as many Brysons, I don't think. Remember how much strength and speed work he's done. I think he's going about it a completely different way when he swings. And for most of us, I think we're going to get better results using the freedom, supple quickness. Here's Mike Austin in his 70s, Studio City golf course in LA. And here he is swinging probably over 120 miles an hour with a persimmon club in his 70s.
I wouldn't know.
Now, who does he look more like to you? Does he look more like Bryson, or does he look more like Jake Knapp? I think that question answers itself. Mike Austin was still flying the ball over 300 yards with a persimmon club head back then in his 70s. Really, really phenomenal athlete, but you can see how his swing looks more like poetry or a work of art than it does a strength. All right, so leave a comment down below if you found this interesting or you have any questions on it. Of course, like and subscribe. Help me get over 100,000 subscribers. That would really make me grateful. Thanks for watching. I'm Steve, and as usual, I'll either see you in the next video or I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.